Good morning.
Hello.
Good morning, team. How is everybody on this fine Thursday morning?
Is it Thursday? I don't know.
I feel like we're kind of dragging as a group this morning. Yeah.
I'm not dragging. I've been up for 4 hours, gone to the gym, created 2 tools for co-founder. Like I'm having a great morning.
You're just rocking and rolling?
Yeah.
I mean, all I know is that when I walked in just a second ago, you guys were talking about a bearded dragon named Daryl. Like,
yeah, my little cousin had a bearded dragon named Daryl because we're talking about dog names.
How you guys got on that conversation, but it is a pretty good name. I think we agree.
My daughter and I, so we just moved to this new neighborhood, and it's kind of the northern end of town.
Oh, bless you.
Sorry, I had to sneeze. It's a northern area, so we're right.
For those people that are just listening on the podcast, Stephanie just muted 2 sneezes.
Quality entertainment here on the How to Founder podcast.
We're at the northern end of town, and as you know, I live in a beautiful outdoor recreation area, and we're all in like the forest and stuff. And up in there's like this kind of enchanted forest area right up the street. And my daughter and I went with a friend of ours, and we wanted to go mushroom foraging. Like there's all these places you can get the mushrooms that you can pick and you can eat. Sorry, this is a long story, but I promise at the
Canadian thing, though, for sure, to go mushroom.
At the end, there's a moral.
Yeah. Okay.
There's a moral.
Oh my God, you guys! Honestly,
I don't know anything about mushrooms.
Moral mushrooms.
Yeah, that was.
I have a more lowbrow joke. Are you ready?
Am I just too intelligent for you guys? Like, do I need to dumb
No,
it?
that's so yes, and that joke sucked. Both can be true.
Guys, the guys that invented the throat lozenge, he just died. Sadly, there was no coffin at the funeral.
Speaking of which, I started a book last night called Tuberculosis is Everywhere.
Yeah.
It's not a dad joke. It's actually a book. And I started reading it last night. Like, speaking of coughing. But it's good. It's like all
sounds like it needs to be a dad joke.
Yeah, you know what?
I read a book called Tuberculosis is Everywhere.
Tuberculosis. It's really the thing I love to read about.
Tuberculosis.
Yeah, really.
But it's kind of like a Freakonomics book. Like, it's like he did all this research into the history of tuberculosis, and he's like, did you know that the cowboy hat was designed as a result of tuberculosis? And then he tells the whole story as to why. And then the World War I was influenced by people who had tuberculosis. Anyway.
This has been really just fascinating episode so far. It's also a glimpse, an insight for our listeners into what it goes like when the 3 of us are talking without the cameras rolling. We just sort of talk about the most random shit. Yeah.
Yeah, and everybody listening is wishing that we
would stop.
The camera was not rolling right now. Yeah, I'm gonna get through my dad joke, Chris. If you can open us up. Do people in electric cars listen to AC/DC or something more current?
Oh man, that's good. Anthony, why do the least qualified candidates keep getting hired at the best startups? Whistler's founder learned that their best hires weren't credentialed specialists. They were self-starters who had built something on their own without anyone asking. Today on How to Founder, we're talking about how do you, yes, you get hired at a startup. I'm your host, Mr. Chris Franks. With me is Anthony Franco, Stephanie Hayes. We do not have a guest. It's just the 3 of us. I love it when it's just the 3 of us because we get to do all this fun foolery. Exactly. Lucky people. All right. I want to just dive right into it and ask the question because we were talking before we started. Anthony, I love the way that you start when somebody comes in and interviews for you. He's like, why do you want this job? Like, what's going on?
No, my question is, why do you want to work here? And it's not with that reflection. I go, why do you here?
It's really all about the emphasis in that sentence today.
This on the right syllable. Yeah. The truth is, Chris, you said it too. You should be telling people as the founder, right? We're going to talk about how to get the job, but the first thing is, as a founder, you should be talking people out of taking the job because
I want to start with that.
because it's super high risk, right? And we can talk about that, but I definitely want to talk about what are you signing up for as an employee of a startup?
I think that's what would be my first question, which is like, this is the main. All three of us are founders. All three of us have hired a lot of people. I want to. We'll go into what you need to say and what are the how you can position yourself. But I think it's really important that we start with this question. When you go in an interview at an early stage startup, what are you walking into? And I think it's not something, and oftentimes because of the dynamics of an interview, it's kind of hard to even get the founder to explain what's going on. So
you are definitely walking
emotional, damn it.
that makes
I don't think that's severe enough. I worked in startups from my very first job all the way through. Like, I've always been in startups.
Read between the lines. It's Stephanie struggles to find employment.
You're absolutely right. I am unemployable, literally.
Me
like
too.
I am
hey,
the first person
guilty
to
as
have
charged.
a job.
Yeah.
But because of that experience, and I will say the work that I have had in startups have been the best experience I've ever had. I have learned so many different things, but you have to be a certain type of person to be able to go into a startup and flourish, because it is not a job, right? It is not somewhere that you get hired and expect to have the same kinds of things done for you and available to you as you would in a bigger company that's established. You need to be resilient. You need to take initiative, and you also get the opportunity to just, I think in my first startup I worked in, I did almost every job. I was a designer. And then at one point in time, I was in a sales role, but I had I was in a marketing role to support sales, but there were no sales in my region. So I had to go out and sell. So I literally drove all over the province selling. And so, you just do what has to be done. So you can't go into it with the expectation and the mindset that you're going to be put into a job where you're fully supported, you've got everything you need, and it's in a box, right?
Well,
and
let's expand that a little bit, Steph, because the truth is, here's the fundamental truth. If you suck at what you do, you will be immediately exposed in the startup because they don't have any room to hide. If you're great at what you do, you still have a risk of being fired because you may not be great at what the startup may not know, the founder may not know what they need or how to delegate to you. So there's a lot of, I do think I wind up talking more people out of taking a startup job than taking the startup job. Now I very importantly will segment what kind of startup. If it's a startup that has millions of dollars of funding, that's not a startup. Those are like 1 in a million jobs, right? If you're talking about a startup where it's a founder raising seed capital, think long and hard about taking that job. Now, I've talked you out of it. You think I'm a jerk. You think I don't know what the hell I'm talking about. You're going to go do it anyway. Okay, so let's talk about that.
I want to start by by just posing this, which is there's a social contract that comes with jobs. And typically, when most of us before, like non-startup people, when you think about a job, there's things called a job description. And you have a job description, you have a job function, and you work within that job function, and you work on a team or multiple teams, oftentimes now, to try to achieve the overall mission of that team and the mission of the company. There is a structure and organization to most positions, and your job early in companies as you get hired is to go learn how a company functions, how your particular cog fits into this machine. That's a traditional approach. Tell me how you would describe a job at a startup, Stephanie. How does it differ from what I just described?
Well, I just want to say one more thing. Like to Anthony's point, he's like, look, if you're really good at what you do, you're still at risk. But I would say, yes, you have to be really good at what you do. But I would say even more importantly is that the people who do well in startups are the ones who can take initiative, who can do things without direction. So you might be really good at what you do when you're told what it has to be. Don't
Yes.
Like that to me is the differentiator. It's not whether you're good or you're bad. It's that if you can have the confidence to be able to go in and say, this is the thing that I do, but I'm going to fully adapt to whatever is needed here. And that's exciting to me. Like if that feels exciting to you, that you're like, great, I sort of have a general idea, but my job is to sort of develop the role. If you're a thinker like that, and that sounds attractive to you, then you will be able to fit into a startup.
A lot. And let me underscore that, Steph, because I think that's incredibly important. So you said take initiative, which every job applicant says that that's what they do, no matter what kind of job they're applying for. But that doesn't really say what that means, right? It doesn't. It's not a big enough word because
no, you're gonna be left on your own. You got to be an innovator, right?
Yes, and the best people I've hired in startup scenarios have been the ones that are like, I know you're asking me to do this, but really what we need is this.
Because a founder doesn't want that.
Yeah, it's a good place. So I'm going to just repeat back what you say and answer my own question, just so we put a point on this, which is in traditional companies, you serve on a team. There is no team other than the other people on a startup team. In traditional jobs, you have a job responsibility, a job role. You don't in a startup. Your job is to do whatever's needed to be done that day, that week, etc. There is something implied when you start in a traditional job, which is you understand what your role is in the team, and that team has a role in the larger function of the business. I always use the machine analogy, but in this particular case, there is no machine. You're building the machine. What your job may be that you walk in the door, to your point, Stephanie, you started in marketing, you ended up in sales, then you did some finance, etc. So there's a wild amount of uncertainty even about what the day-to-day function is. That is not something, to your point, we know this. This is not a function where a lot of people thrive in that level of uncertainty. We like to know as humans what's expected of us. And that's not something that startups can offer all that often. All right. So
another component to that end, Chris, is also your job is it's really counterintuitive. Your job is to work your way out of a job so that you can go do a bigger job or a more important job or something that has higher stakes. The expectation in a startup that you're going to work for is that you're going to grow just as fast as a contributor to the team as the company is growing. And if the team is growing and you're not, you're going to be out of a job.
I want to ask a question, and this is, let's do some myth squashing, which is I've asked people like, hey, why do you want to work at a startup? Sometimes the answer is, oh, I want to get equity in a company. I want to have some of that stock early. I think it's going to, really pay off long term. Right?
Maybe, but you have better odds going and buying a lottery ticket.
Yeah, scratch tickets will pay off.
Never work for shares.
Yeah. Also, talk to me about the comp level that you'll get at a startup versus like doing similar. Let's say it's an entry level job. Talk to me about how much you're going to get paid at a startup versus what you get paid at a.
They don't have money. You're going to get paid less.
So to be fair, any smart founder is going to know that if they want the right people, they're going to have to compensate them to keep them. But the right people are going to be excited by the idea of some type of base compensation plus variable, right? Like that's a really aligned motivation for people who are attracted to the startup environment. So I think as a founder, you can get away with some of that. Not that you're trying to get away with it, but like that helps the business and it helps it grow. But as a person who's looking for the job, like you've got to be excited by that type of compensation and see the upside, right? That's how we compensated all of the folks in our consulting world. Like they still got paid good base, but it was interesting because they had the upside to make a ton of money. And they just didn't. So what that tells me is that there's a very, very thin slice of the population that actually flourishes in that type of, performance-based compensation environment, right?
Have you had people that actually work for Steph?
Yes.
Okay.
And that's why I'm saying like it's a very, very, very unique and specific personality. And if that's you, that's me, like 100%, right? I'll look at that. I'll be like, sure, pay me $10 an hour, but I'm going to go and fucking blow it out of the park because I can make 200 based on this compensation model you've just given me. Unless you've built it in a way that there's caps on it, then that's kind of bullshit. But you might run into some of that, right? Especially if they're not funded right now. But you're going to run into...
Here's my counter argument is that when people come into variable compensation roles, they're not like team-based and performance-based. Oh, I'm going to come into a startup and I'm going to have commission available. Be really careful what you're selling because in most of these cases, they're going to be like, hey, Anthony, I'll pay you commission when you sell this product. And then you get in there and realize the product is half-baked. We're building it as you go.
But it's not necessarily commission. In fact, I think commission is very unlikely to be unless you're in a sales role, right? It's more like, okay, guys.
Well, remember Joey Rocky on episode, I think it was 165, Steph, that we interviewed, who had only variable comp employees working for him. Yeah. They were all performance-based. And both you and I were like,
The key is that the compensation, like the performance, has to be something I feel like I can actually impact, right? That's where people go wrong, is that they're like, yay, profit. I'm like, but I don't know how I can actually impact. In a startup, you're a lot closer to the outcomes, right? And that's what makes it kind of exciting, is I can see like the change I make right today, I can see the impact tomorrow, right? And that's a really attractive. So like we're sitting here sort of bashing the idea of working in a startup because we know how fraught with risk it is, but it's also for certain personalities, it's a freaking, I've never worked. I've had 2 jobs working in like government, but it nearly killed me. This is where I thrive. So if you're that person, this is a great way to get lots and lots of experience in. And, you can have an upside as long as you the founder has structured a thoughtful compensation model where you feel like there's an opportunity for you to actually achieve what the outcomes are.
Yeah. What I think is really interesting here, Chris, is if you really want to work for a startup and you need to make it as low risk for that startup as possible and take on all the burden. And what that looks like is saying, I want to eat what I kill. And that's how I'm going to make money when I make you money. That's the only way that you're going to pay me. And that makes it really easy for the founder to go, all right, they're going to come into it. And bluntly, the it has to make that, therefore it has to make sense for you as the employee, right? Like, do you really think you can do that? Do you really think the incentive package, and you have to work on the incentive package really hard to make sure that you can achieve what is good for the company and therefore maps back to your wallet. That's, I do think the best way to get into a startup is go to the founder with that as the business model. I'm going to work and I'm only going to eat what I kill.
Okay, so with variable comp and sort of like that aside, I just want to recap where we've come from, which is, and I think it's a good place to start with, just what are you signing up for when you want to go work for a startup? Number one is you're walking into an environment where failure is likely, meaning that the company itself can fail and you may be out of a job you've done a great job, but their company still may fail. You're probably going to get paid less. I'm going to try to compensate you with stock and or variable compensation. Because cash is so limited, it's a really difficult thing. And I'm telling you that the stock that you get is very likely going to be worthless.
Very like, so
Yeah.
the people listening to this is like, why the hell would I ever be an employee for a startup? And why the hell would you ever found a company? And they're right. Like, we're not normal people.
We're not normal
we're
people.
broken. We're
Right.
broken in a big way. And so you're 100%.
You're also
You
not
are completely
normal
right.
podcast guests because you guys can't let me get to the next point.
Sorry, Chris,
Right.
keep going.
So we get this point. It is a very chaotic environment. It's a very specialized thing, et cetera. And so you're walking into an environment. I do want to ask the next question, which is, it is really important to understand what you can get and what are the benefits from working in a startup. And again, we're not even going to say compensation. We're not going to say the opportunity to make a lot of money long term because it's such a wild crapshoot that the answer is probably no. Why would somebody want to work in a startup, Stephanie?
My first job in a startup, actually my second job in a startup, but I was 24, 25. My job was to incubate companies. Build and incubate. I didn't know, nobody knew what the fuck they were doing, but that was my job. And because I am the person who thrives in that kind of environment, I just went for it and I figured everything out. And I got the opportunity to learn, how do I set up logistics in a warehouse in Richmond, Virginia? How do I learn about coding, PL SQL and like online? How do I do this? How do I do it? This is what has served me in my career, is that extensive knowledge about how a business is formed and gets built. And so you get this opportunity to have experiences in practice doing things that you wouldn't get in a big organization. And if that's appealing to you, yes, maybe you're not getting the compensation. I still got paid really well, actually, because they wanted to be competitive. But that has been a gift to me in my whole career, because I can navigate all of the different pieces of business and startups and all of it. So you're going to get experience that you won't get anywhere else, and you're going to be part of a very tight team of people. That experience that we had during the .com days was like nothing I've ever had. I'm still friends with those people from 30 years ago. So like, you're going to have a really interesting experience. You're going to gain some skills. And if you go into it with that knowledge, I would say one of the things you should not go into it with is expecting and holding the founder accountable for your success. So if you go into it saying, you have to make me successful, you have to set me up to be successful, like, go into it thinking, you know what? This is me investing in my own career. This is me stepping forward, knowing that I'm responsible for my experience here.
Anthony, what do you think?
So 4 things. Impact. You get to have more impact in the company than you would in a corporate job. Autonomy. You have a lot more autonomy. Double-edged sword. Both of those are double-edged swords. Stephanie said it, experience. I call it learning. So if you are curious to try something new and learn something new, You're typically you're not going to be held accountable for knowing the thing before you do it. Like you're learning as you go, and it should be fun. Honestly,
Yeah.
I love how he phrases.
I mean, if you like roller coasters, it might be for you.
It will be fun.
What I'm hearing though is that the primary thing, which you guys both said, is that you get an opportunity to learn at a rate that is so much faster than you would learn about business functions in a normal big company setting. Is that a fair? That's one of the things that you said, right?
I mean, yeah. So if you're going to go work for a big company, you're going to work on one cog in this huge machine, and you're going to get asked to be specialized on this one thing, and that is for most people. Like that's the right job for most people. Get good at one thing. Now you can argue with AI that's not becoming the case, but that has been the case over a long time. In a startup, in early stage companies, the pressure to constantly innovate sharpens your teeth to be better at anything that you do for the rest of your life.
So you're like a vampire? Sharpens your teeth. What do you want
sharp
teeth?
Why we're sharpening teeth here, Anthony?
You've never heard that? That's the first time you guys have heard that phrase?
I've heard it.
You just made it up.
It's like from 1956. Jesus.
Sharpen your skills, maybe.
Yeah. All right. So the second piece is, and learning here becomes incredibly important because, and I think this is the point that I want to make, on this kind of piece. You're going to have autonomy, you're going to have control, you're going to see how a business functions, and you can build a business, you can see how it works from the ground up. There's another group of people that have to do that same job at big companies. They're senior executives. And so you get the opportunity to get a view of a company across all functions that you would never get as an early stage employee in a big company. You just get an opportunity to see how business works and how it works together. And you see how things break and how they get fixed.
You see more about how things break than how things work. That is for sure.
The second piece of this, and I think this is really important, is that there's a lot of research that shows that happiness at work have to do with the people that you work with. And at startups, you tend to get a group of people that are hyper motivated, that are very mission focused and work exceptionally hard. And that can be a really tight bonding experience. Has that been, you said, Stephanie,
have I told you the paratrooper story? Have I said the paratrooper story?
We did that first episode. It's a great one.
On our first episode. Right. Should I retell that really quick?
Yeah, go ahead. I love it.
So there's this this is why you work in startups and why you become a founder. It's an old Johnny Carson episode. Many of you don't know who Johnny Carson is. It's a talk show. So Jimmy Fallon is the new Johnny Carson.
Right. It was such a nice show.
And he was talking. Johnny Carson was talking about this reporter that was interviewing paratroopers. And the reporter was going down the line and saying, "Why do you like to be a paratrooper? Why do you like to be a paratrooper?" And you're looking at these big beefy guys, macho guys, lots of testosterone, and they're like, "I love the adrenaline," and another guy's like, "Oh, I love jumping out of airplanes. It makes me feel more manly. It gives me the rush." And he's going down and all the same answers, and then he gets to this kind of little scrawny looking dude, and he says, "Why do you like jumping out of airplanes?" And he goes, "I hate jumping out of airplanes." And the reporter, like, "I thought paratrooper was volunteer." And the guy says, "Yeah, it is volunteer." He says, "Well, if you hate jumping out of airplanes and you're terrified of it, why did you volunteer?" He's like, "I just like hanging around guys that like jumping out of airplanes." And that's the reason why most people want to work for a startup. That's why I love being an entrepreneur. It's because I like hanging around men and women that like doing this job. It's an adrenaline rush.
Yeah, it is an illness. Okay, 27 minutes in, 28 minutes in. Let's get to the point. I want to get a job as a startup. I want to get a job in a startup. I want you first to tell me briefly what the founder is thinking across the table from you. So frame this up because typically it's not, I have a job rec and I need to get it filled and I need to hire. That's what big company people do.
No, by the time they're talking,
entirely different approach.
By the time they're talking to you, they have a pain that they're trying to soothe. So the founder is thinking, is this the person that's going to come in, white knight this problem and take it away, take it off my desk? And the answer is probably not. There's no such thing as a white knight, but that's what they're thinking.
Stephanie?
I think that the person is like, the founder is going, please just be somebody I don't have to manage. I'm not kidding. Like,
No,
that's absolutely right.
Yeah.
I do not want to hire somebody that I am going to have to hold their hand and teach. I don't even care if they have tons of experience, or like, if I think you're somebody who can figure things out and who's going to work independently and who's going to, be curious and friendly and, resilient, I'm hiring you. I'll teach you everything.
Are you going to be more work for me than the work that you're taking away from me? That's it.
Exactly.
That's what they're thinking.
So I think there's two components here, and I'm just going to recap what you just said, which is at any given time, I'm going to be working 40 to 60 hours a week, sometimes 70, sometimes 80. I know that burnout is real, but I'm going to be working a lot. And when a new hire comes in, I'm signing up for additional work because I need to teach that person about my business. I need to do that. And so I'm putting pain on myself to hire somebody. And a lot of times, even though I know that I cannot do all these jobs, it's going to be more painful in the short term for me to bring somebody in. Second thing I just want you guys to touch on. Founders are constantly looking at burn rate and how much cash they have in the bank, right? That is, our eyes are on that almost every single day of our lives. And so as you're sitting across the table, how does that play into it, Anthony?
As the founder or as the
founder. So what am I thinking when I'm interviewing someone?
What I'm thinking is, how is this person going to pay for themselves? That's it. It's that simple. How is this person going to pay for themselves? In a startup, everything's about generating revenue. Unless you're well-funded and you don't have to care about revenue for 2 years. That's not most startups. That's not the startup you're probably interviewing for. They're thinking, how does this person pay for themselves as quickly as possible?
Or how does, I think it's not quite that direct. I think it's more like, how is having this person going to contribute to us moving forward, and making more money? So I don't think it's like the direct, unless it's a sales role, but they're constantly thinking, is this the right thing for me to invest in right now? Is this the right role? And if you're coming to the table,
investment implies a return.
Yeah. So
right.
If you're coming to the table for and yes, founders will put together a job description. They very often don't really know what they need, but let's say they put out a job description for like a project manager, right? What you need to know as somebody who's being hired, and this is a really good example because I have opinions on project managers, and I will actually not hire someone who's a trained project manager. Anyway, I digress. But let's say you're applying for a job as a project manager. If you can come in there and be like, yeah, I can do project management, but I also think what you're going to need is product management, and you're going to need, like, I have experience with all those things, and I would be happy to pull those all in. That's what the founder's going to be like, fucking thank you, because they're not in a position to be hiring very narrowly defined jobs. That's just not what happens in a startup. So if you want that job, you come in, and you start asking questions. You're like, what about this and what about that? In my experience, project management in a startup is actually a lot more than project management. And so I would suggest that, we can probably build that out, and I'll run the role of product manager as well, and blah, blah, blah for a little while. I'd be like, thank you as a founder. Thank you. Like, you come with
the piece that, just to combine these two components, which is you and your founding team all have 5 or 6 different hats at any given time. Yes, it's about which hat can I take off and give. But Anthony, to your point, it's either direct or indirect about how can we be more successful, how I can sell. It may be like, hey, could you please take over doing project management or the books or something like that? Because I desperately have to either go raise money or go sell, right? Like those are I've got to get a lot of other stuff off my plate.
Some of the ROI is, can this person take the monotonous work off of my plate so that I can go generate more revenue? That is ROI. That is how that person's going to pay for me.
Okay,
Yes,
so let's get to the other side of the table. So now I'm walking in and I want to best position myself with all this knowledge we've just imparted. We've talked about, first of all, like you've got to really understand what you're getting into, understand it's a learning environment, understand that there's going to be chaos, lots of uncertainty. You're going to be doing different jobs, all those sorts of things we've just discussed. How can I position myself best? And really even a high level, how do I start searching for jobs within startups? And then how do I get a job?
We'll go to Denver Founders once we start that up again. But so how do you find it? You go to startup events. That's how you find a job. There's no job board for it. How do you best position yourself? Don't position yourself. Don't try to finagle your way into a job by caring too much about what that founder really is looking for. You need to be honest about who you are and what you can contribute. And if you try to position yourself outside of who you are so that you fit the startup, you will fail in the startup. You'll fail in the job. You might get the job, but you'll fail in the job. Be honest about that. And also the best thing that you can say is, here's what I'm going to take off your plate if you bring me on. Here's what I'm going to do that you will no longer have to do or that you're not doing. That's the best way to position yourself.
I don't know that it's always that the founder is trying to take things off of their plate. Like there's often going to be a time where you're going to have a job interview with a founder and they've already got a bit of a team in place and whatever. So I don't even think that it's like, I'm going to take things off of your plate, founder, unless you're employee number one. But it's going to be like, all right, I'm going to run with it. Right. Like
yeah, I think that's true. And I just mean take off your plate, but you're right. It's not just my plate, but it's also I'm still worried about this thing. That's why I'm hiring, right? I'm going to take this concern away from you because I'm just going to handle it or run with it, to your point, Steph.
Yeah, I'm going to run with it. And I think, like if you're networking with founders and you're intent on getting a startup job, you show up in those communities, you start becoming known by them, you start asking a lot of questions. And when you get into those conversations and you have to introduce yourself, you say, I'm so-and-so, I've got, 10 years as a project manager. But what I found working in some of the bigger companies is that I'm really not getting the opportunity to, grow and to expand outside of the work that I'm doing. And I know when I go to work in a startup, I'm going to have the opportunity to really expand my skills and to be able to contribute in a way that's a lot more meaningful. I'd be like, great, when do you want to start, right?
There's an interesting thing that's implied when you do a job interview, which is I'm putting my best foot forward and you're putting your best foot forward as far as what the job is. And we both are kind of selling each other. I would say doing the opposite is a really smart thing to do in a startup, Anthony. If you go forward is like, I want to know, tell me the good, the bad, the ugly. Explain to me what's going on. I think that gives you a job up. I think just a couple of other practical pieces of advice is I follow a few newsletters that talk about funding and when companies get large rounds of funding. If you get a large round of funding as a company, it is implied that you're going to be hiring. You're going to be hiring fast and a lot of people. And so keep an eye out if that's really what you want to do. Again, a little bit later stage, but that's a great place to start. And don't look at job descriptions of people that are hiring rapidly. Just look at those opportunities. Yeah,
be careful with those rapid hires. Like my business partner came out of a business where they hired 500 people in 6 months. And of course, within a year, they were crashing, right? You cannot grow at that capacity Like you cannot grow at that. So be careful for these businesses. They're like, yay, we just got a ton of funding and we're hiring 500 people. Just do not, because you will end up without a job and it's going to be chaos, and it's not good chaos, right? And then I would also say there's an element here of ego. I think people who work in startups have to have a little bit of a bigger ego because they have to have the confidence that they're going to be really successful. But I would also say, as a founder, I'd be watching for that. The ones who need to be a hero, because they're the ones who are going to come in and run roughshod over everything and just be, and if their focus is like, I want to be a superstar, I want to be recognized, I want to be acknowledged, you'll get some of that for sure. But when that's your main driver as an employee, those are the pain in the ass clients for, or employees for sure.
That is
All right,
100%
so
true. There's a fine line between pushing the company to be better and being a pain in the ass. There is a fine line, and as a founder, you know it when you see it.
I think as we're kind of starting to put a point on this conversation, you have somebody that you're close to that has said, hey, I understand all the downsides. I understand everything that you're telling me, but I really want to go do this. I want to learn. I want to take the ride. I understand the chaos. This really feels like the right choice for me. What advice would you give them on A, locating opportunities, and then B, what would you say for them to actually go get that job?
Don't talk to the founder. First of all, don't talk to the founder, talk to somebody else that already worked there and say, hey, I'm interested in this job. Can you get me in? So get in there sideways. Don't post to the job board. Don't put, if they have a, like, if they have a job posting, you're going to get buried. You need to get need to get in sideways. And again, go to local startup events. There's one happening every month within an hour of where you live right now. There's something happening. Go to those and get involved with help. Even better, if you really want a startup job, go volunteer at startup events.
Yeah.
Go participate in the ecosystem.
Yeah, we used to run the startup weekends here, right? And it was a weird experience for sure. But there's lots of those kinds of things that are always happening, right? And these we started a startup accelerator here, and we had lots of people that would just come and hang out, right? Go be in those communities.
I think the only thing I would add is that when you're sitting across the table from somebody, ask a lot of questions about the company, the vision, the product, and where they're going. And then when asked, like, well, what do you do? And I was like, I will do literally anything. If you really want to work for that company, be humble enough to say, I will do any project, put me on anything. I will absolutely do any amount of work. I've had a couple of people tell me that in my career as I was interviewing them, and I hired them immediately because it just shows the fact that they're really willing to be humble. They're not going to be a prima donna. They're not going to, again, the joke about setting up your own computer, Anthony, it's always a good one, right?
Yeah. I'm gonna before we get into the speed run, Chris, I want to throw one warning or caution to anybody looking to work for a startup. Chris, you and I are guilty of this as well. So if you're talking really early stage, like idea stage, like I think there's a business here, and you're talking to a founder or somebody that, and I don't care if they've never built a business or if they have serial experience like the three of us, when we're in that early idea generation stage, we'll start and stop 8 things. We'll go down the path a little bit, start it, try it. Does it work? And if it doesn't, we'll back out. I mean, we did this with ProFounder, right, Chris? We set up an LLC. We created a bank account. Like we were dead set on starting that ProFounder stuff, and then it just died. It just didn't. It just we tested it on the market. It wasn't working. We're like, okay, that didn't happen. Let's back away. So you have to be careful when you actually go all in, when you put all your heart and energy behind an idea and a founder that they may not be fully baked yet, and just be cautious in that scenario.
It's a great point, Stephanie. You want to add a point on that one?
No, he said it really well, and I think like sort of to put a bow on everything, like yeah, there's a first time for everything. Anthony.
I know. I'll take it.
Yeah, but just to put a bow on all of it, like working in a startup is probably the most incredible experience I've ever had, and it was so good for my career. But it was also, I mean, I don't know if you'll ever work in a time like the .com days were. Like that was just
Nuts.
otherworldly. It was nuts, but it was so exciting and it was so interesting. And I look back now and I had such great experiences. So it can be an exceptional experience, but you have to go into it with the right expectations. And you have to go into it with tons of curiosity and personal responsibility. I think that's such a big part of it, is the people who really flourish in founders or in startups have a ton of personal responsibility. They're not looking for anybody to make their career good. They're not looking to anybody to solve their problems. And when shit hits the fan and you get laid off, you go out, you expect that, right? Like, that that's just part of what's going to happen.
I want to just ask one more just short question, which I think I know the answer for both of you. But right now, talking to one of my college students that I work with, what skills do they need to invest in now to be able to get jobs in startups, or really kind of any company, Anthony?
AI.
Yeah.
Know how to leverage AI really hard. That's an easy answer.
Yeah. Stephanie, agree?
Yes.
Beyond ChatGPT.
Yeah. Like, I will say this experience I just had yesterday was just wild. Like, I built the prototypes and wireframes for a software product, using Miro's AI and just prompts. Took me about an hour. And then I took those wireframes and I took them and I ran them through Miro, and I created a whole set of functional specifications with user stories and acceptance criteria and everything. And I took those into my agentic AI tool and I said, where are the gaps? Here's the wireframes. So within 2 hours, I had an entire software product defined, and that would have taken me probably 2 months to do before. So if you can leverage AI inside of your startup, you are golden.
Yeah, I would
10
agree.
employees for the price of one. Yep.
I think at this point in time, what AI provides for startups is it's a lever, in the sense of I can lift heavier weights, I can do more with less, and if you can come in and help me do that, I think it's profoundly valuable. All right. We have been all over the place. We've been up, down. We've tried to talk people out of jobs. We've hired them. It's the whole thing. Now it's time for the speed round. All right. We'll start with you, Stephanie, and then go to you, Anthony. Would you join a startup with only 8 months of runway?
Would I?
Yes. So in the seat of an employee is where the employee looking to get hired for a startup. I think that's where the question is coming from.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah,
it's true.
8 months is exciting. I'm used to 1.
That's pretty good.
Same. It's like 8 months. Like, yeah, I'm in.
Yeah, pretty good. You are a prospective employee. Would you join a company with a brilliant but impossible founder?
A brilliant what?
But impossible founder. So the brilliant.
No.
I've been there.
Nope.
2 opportunities. You have one for the big hot startup that's got all the press, or the one that's really nobody's heard of. Which one do you choose?
The nascent one.
It depends on the founder. You go work you're essentially working for the founder and their ability to execute and their vision. It depends on the founder. Who cares if it's hyped or not?
You get ghosted after your interview with a team that went really well, a startup team that went really well. How many times do you follow up?
2.
Until you get an answer. Yeah, that's what I was going to say. And remember, at that point in time, it's not about you, right? These guys are just really busy. And they're not trying to be jerks. They just have something else that came up. Deep Dive Resources, The Startup of You by Reid Hoffman, and So Good They Can't Ignore You by Cal Newport. It is just the three of us. Anthony, what are you working on? Where do you want people to go? Tell me about you.
I'm doing, speaking of AI, I'm doing AI training right now. So visit wisermethod.com to check out what I'm working on. I'm teaching people how to automate themselves and automate their companies. I'm pretty excited about it.
I will give you a unsolicited plug. I went through your training and have been absolutely geeking out about the stuff you taught.
Me too.
It is really, really cool. Stephanie, Anthony, thank you. Good conversation. Anthony, you want to get us out of here?
Yeah, thanks everybody for listening. Please be sure to visit us at howtofounder.com, where you can connect with us on LinkedIn and subscribe to our YouTube and Apple Podcasts and Spotify channels. Make sure you hit that subscribe button and that like button for us. Leave us a review if you really like Chris's hair. You are the pioneer of economic prosperity, and we're just so grateful that we're here along the way with you. Thanks everybody. Bye.